Imagine a crowded room on a Friday night. It's loud, the music is thumping, and the air is thick with conversation and clinking glasses. In the center of the room, there is a guy we all know. Let's call him Brad. Brad is the loudest guy in the room. He is holding court, waving his arms around, telling a story that is just a little too rehearsed, laughing just a little too hard at his own jokes. He is desperate to be the life of the party. He thinks he is crushing it. He thinks he is commanding attention. But if you actually look around the circle of people surrounding him, you see the truth. They are checking their phones. Their eyes are darting around the room looking for an exit. They are physically angling their bodies away from him. Brad is technically the center of attention, but psychologically, he is invisible. He has zero magnetism. He is pushing, and the room is pulling away. Now, shift your focus to the corner of the room. There's another guy there. Let's call him the silent observer. He isn't standing on a table. He isn't shouting to be heard over the bass. He is leaning back against the bar, one hand in his pocket, holding a drink with a relaxed grip. He isn't saying a word. He is just watching the room with a calm, amused look in his eyes. He is completely still. And yet, watch what happens. People are gravitating toward him. A girl brushes past him and lingers just a second too long. The bartender prioritizes his order without him waving a $20 bill. When he finally does speak to the person next to him, they lean in. They crave his validation. He isn't chasing attention. He is commanding it. He is a gravitational well. This is the difference between being loud and being magnetic. This is the difference between trying to be attractive and actually being irresistible. Most of you watching this are operating like Brad, even if you aren't that loud. You are operating under the assumption that to be noticed, to be valued, and to be attractive, you need to do more. You need to say the perfect pickup line. You need to have the funniest story. You need to perform. And that is exactly why you feel invisible. You are broadcasting on a frequency that nobody wants to tune into. You are trying to negotiate desire, but desire cannot be negotiated. It can only be triggered. And today, we are going to talk about how to trigger it without saying a single word. We are going to shatter the expectation that attraction is about what you say and prove to you that it is entirely about who you are when you think nobody is watching. Here is the cold, hard data that explains why your scripts and your rehearsed jokes are failing you. It is called Mehrabian's rule, and if you don't understand this, you are playing the game of social dynamics with a blindfold on. Dr.
Albert Mehrabian conducted research that fundamentally broke down human communication, and the numbers are terrifying if you are a guy who relies on his wit to get by. The research shows that the impact of your communication is broken down into 3 unequal parts. First, the actual words you say, the content, the script. Do you know how much weight that carries? 7%. That is it. 7% of your impact comes from the words coming out of your mouth. The next 38% comes from your vocal quality, your tonality, your pitch, your speed, the resonance in your chest. But the massive chunk, the majority shareholder of your attractiveness, is the remaining 55%. That 55% is your physiology. It is your body language. It is your presence. It is your eye contact. It is the way you breathe. This means that 93% of attraction is non-verbal. 93%. If you are walking into a room worrying about what you are going to say, you have already lost. You are focusing on the 7%, while the 93% is screaming that you are nervous, insecure, and seeking validation. Let's dig deeper into this because it is not just a statistic, it is a biological reality. Your brain and the brains of everyone you are trying to attract are hardwired with primitive functions that haven't changed much since we were hunting in the savannah.
We like to think we are sophisticated modern humans, but when it comes to attraction, we are running on ancient software. Research from Harvard's Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience Lab backs this up. They found that human brains are constantly, subconsciously scanning the environment for social signals. This happens in milliseconds. Before you even open your mouth to say hello, the other person's brain has already made a snap judgment about your value, your status, and your potential as a partner. They are using mirror neurons to unconsciously evaluate your emotional state. If you are anxious, if your breathing is shallow, if your shoulders are tight, their mirror neurons pick that up instantly. They feel your anxiety, they feel your neediness. And biologically, anxiety signals danger. It signals a lack of control. In the wild, the anxious animal is the one about to be eaten. The anxious animal is the one at the bottom of the hierarchy. So when you approach someone with that Brad energy, that frantic, try-hard energy, you are triggering a biological repulsion response. You are signaling that you are not safe, you are not stable, and you are not a leader. On the flip side, let us look at the silent observer again. Why is he magnetic? It is not magic. It is what we call silent magnetism.
This is not a personality trait you are born with. It is a set of biological hacks that trigger those primitive brain functions in others to view you as high status and high value. When he stands there, totally relaxed, his nervous system is regulated. He is breathing deeply into his diaphragm. His posture is open. He is taking up space, not because he is arrogant, but because he is comfortable. This signals to everyone else's primitive brain that he is safe, he is in control. He is the lion resting in the shade, not the hyena laughing nervously at the edge of the pack. This is the concept of psychological safety. When you embody this kind of deep, grounded presence, you make other people feel safe. You make them relax. And in a world that is full of anxiety, full of noise, and full of people trying to take something from them, the person who offers a calm, grounded presence is intoxicating. It is addictive. People want to be around that energy because it regulates their own nervous systems. They feel better just by standing next to you. That is the essence of silent magnetism. It is about becoming an energy source rather than an energy drain. Most people are energy drains. They are what we call partially present. You know these people. You are talking to them, but you can see the gears turning in their head.
They are worrying about the past, or they are anxious about the future, or worst of all, they are just waiting for you to stop talking so they can say what they prepared. They are not listening to understand, they are listening to respond. This is repulsive. It signals that you do not care about the person in front of you, you only care about how you are being perceived. It is narcissistic in the most insecure way possible. Contrast that with the silent magnet. He masters the art of presence and energy management. This is the foundation. You cannot fake this with a cool leather jacket or a haircut. True presence signifies complete awareness and control over your internal state. It is about emotional regulation. Attractive people do not get triggered easily. They do not let the mood of the room dictate their mood. They bring the weather. If the room is chaotic, they are the eye of the storm. This emotional stability signals psychological maturity and reliability. It tells a woman or a business partner or a friend, I can handle this. I am solid. That is incredibly rare and therefore incredibly valuable. Let us talk about the biological mechanism of the glance. We mentioned that 93% is nonverbal. One of the most powerful tools in that toolkit is eye contact, but not just any eye contact. There's a difference between the creepy stare and magnetic gaze. The creepy stare comes from tension. It's a hunt.
It is predatory or desperate. The magnetic gaze comes from relaxation. It involves what the source material calls soft focus. It is about presence. When the silent magnet looks at you, he is actually seeing you. He is not scanning you for approval. He is observing. This triggers a release of oxytocin in the other person's brain. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone. It creates trust. It creates connection. By simply looking at someone with a grounded, calm presence, you are chemically altering their brain to feel connected to you. You have not said a word, and they already feel like they know you. They feel like they trust you. This is the power you are leaving on the table every time you rush to fill the silence with chatter. And speaking of silence, we need to address the fear of it. Most of you are terrified of silence. A pause in conversation feels like a death sentence. You feel the adrenaline spike and you blurt out something stupid just to bridge the gap. That is a low-status behavior. It signals that you are uncomfortable with yourself. The silent magnet uses what we call strategic silence. He understands that silence creates space. It creates a vacuum, and human nature abhors a vacuum. We want to fill it. When you are comfortable in the silence, you force the other person to invest. They will start talking. They will start trying to impress you. They will start chasing your validation because you aren't freely giving it away like a flyer on the street. This connects directly to the concept of authenticity versus incongruence. Humans are lie detectors. We have evolved over millions of years to spot a fake because a fake in the tribe could get us killed. If you are trying to act confident, puffing out your chest, lowering your voice artificially, using a script you learned on the internet, but internally you are a nervous wreck, you are creating incongruence. Your signals are mixed. Your words say, "I'm the man," but your micro expressions, your fidgeting hands, and your shallow breathing say, "I'm terrified." This incongruence is what gives people the ick. It is repulsive. It's why the loud guy, Brad, is failing. He is incongruent. The silent magnet is congruent. His internal state matches his external reality. He is calm inside, so he looks calm outside. He is confident in his value, so he doesn't need to shout about it. This is why the source emphasizes that you cannot just learn these techniques as surface-level tricks. You have to embody them. It is about who you become. But here's the good news. Silent attraction is not a personality trait. It is not something you either have or you don't. It is a skill. It is a set of learnable habits that, with practice, rewire your own brain and change your baseline state. You can learn to regulate your nervous system.
You can learn to control your attention. You can learn to breathe in a way that hacks your biology to lower cortisol and raise testosterone. Let's get specific about the how. I promised you a way to fix this in 3 seconds. This is the pattern interrupt. This is how you stop the scroll of your own life and reset the frame. It starts with a concept called embodied cognition. This is a scientific principle that says your body doesn't just reflect your mind, your body changes your mind. It is a two-way street. If you feel confident, you stand tall. But if you stand tall, you actually start to feel confident. So here is the 3-second fix. You are in a situation where you feel invisible. You feel the anxiety rising. You are about to start babbling. Stop. Second one, ground your feet. Literally feel the floor. Most of you are floating, up on your toes, ready to run. Plant your heels. Drop your weight. This physical grounding sends a signal to your brainstem that you are stationary, you are safe, you are not fleeing. Second two, release the tension in your stomach and jaw. Anxiety lives in the solar plexus and the masseter muscles. When you are nervous, you suck in your gut and you clench your teeth. Let your belly go soft. Let your jaw hang loose. This interrupts the fight or flight feedback loop. Second three, take one deep breath through your nose, expanding that soft belly, and exhale slower than you inhaled. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. In those 3 seconds, you have shifted from a state of threat to a state of safety. You have switched from the prey to the observer. Your eyes will stop darting. Your voice, when you do speak, will drop an octave because your vocal cords have relaxed. You have just become the silent magnet. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the physiological entry point. To truly become irresistible, to have that silent magnetism that draws people in from across the room, we have to go deeper into the psychology of attention, the art of deep listening, and the mastery of nonverbal influence. We need to talk about what you do after those 3 seconds. Think about the concept of the loudest guy again. Why does he do it? Because he is operating from a place of deficit. He needs the room to fill his cup. The silent observer operates from a place of surplus. His cup is full. He is there to observe, to enjoy, to connect, but not to take. This energy shift is palpable. It is the difference between a beggar and a king. And here is the secret. People want to be around kings, not beggars. They want to be around people who have enough internal resources to share, not people who are looking to suck the energy out of the room. We are going to break down exactly how to build that internal resource. We are going to look at the micro signals of attractiveness.
These are the tiny, almost invisible cues that you are broadcasting every second. We talked about eye contact, but what about the way you walk? What about the way you hold your drink? What about the timing of your nod when someone is speaking? The source material discusses attention control.
This is a superpower in the modern age. Everyone is distracted. Everyone has the attention span of a goldfish. When you can focus your attention like a laser beam on one person, completely ignoring your phone, completely ignoring the distractions, you make that person feel like the only person in the universe. That is addictive. That is charisma. Charisma isn't about being loud. It is about making the other person feel important. And you do that through silence and attention, not through stories and jokes. Let's look at the contrast with partial presence again. You know when you are talking to someone and they are looking over your shoulder to see if there is someone more important in the room. How does that make you feel? Small, insignificant, annoying. Now, imagine you are talking to someone who locks in on you. They hear the emotional subtext of what you are saying. They aren't just hearing the words, they are hearing the emotion. They don't interrupt, they wait, they process, and then they ask a question that proves they were listening. That person is a magnet. You want to keep talking to them. You want to be around them. You will cross a crowded room just to say hello to them. That is the power of deep listening. It triggers the release of dopamine and oxytocin in the speaker. You are literally getting them high on their own supply. And because you are the source of that feeling, they associate that pleasure with you. You become the drug. That is how you become irresistible without trying. You aren't performing, you are facilitating. You are creating a stage for them to shine, and in doing so, you become the director of the scene. And remember the 93% rule? Let's apply that to strategic silence. The source material outlines that silence creates authority. Think about a CEO in a meeting versus a junior intern. The intern is babbling, filling the air, trying to prove he knows things. The CEO sits back, listens, thinks, and then speaks one sentence that directs the whole meeting. Who has the power? The one who is comfortable with silence. If you can hold silence in a social interaction, you subcommunicate high status. You show that you aren't desperate for approval. You show that you are comfortable in your own skin. This is what we call status signaling in evolutionary psychology. In a tribe, the alpha doesn't need to bark. The alpha moves slowly. The alpha breathes deeply. The alpha looks you in the eye and doesn't flinch. These are all nonverbal cues that say, I am at the top of the hierarchy. And because we are still biological machines, we are drawn to that. We want to align with the high-status individual because it meant survival for our ancestors. But let's be clear, this isn't about arrogance. The source material makes a crucial distinction between confidence and arrogance. Arrogance is loud. Arrogance is Brad. Arrogance comes from insecurity. It is a shield. Calm confidence, silent magnetism, is open. It is warm. It is unconditional positive regard. You aren't judging the room. You are accepting it. You are amused by it. You are the rock and the river. The water flows around you, but you don't move. We also need to address emotional regulation as a pillar of this. If you are easily offended, if you get defensive, if you get jealous, you break the spell. You become reactive. The attractive man is proactive, not reactive. He chooses his response. He has distress tolerance. He can handle awkwardness. He can handle rejection. He can handle someone being rude. And because he doesn't react, because he keeps his frame, he wins. He stays magnetic. The moment you lose your cool, you lose your power. So why are you invisible? You are invisible because you are reacting to the world instead of making the world react to you. You are invisible because you are wearing a mask of trying that everyone can see through. You are invisible because you are neglecting 93% of your communication channels. You are a silent movie actor trying to make it in the era of talkies, but you've got the script backward. You are focusing on the dialogue when the audience is looking at the acting. The fix isn't to learn more lines. It isn't to get a louder voice. It is to drop the act. It is to find that grounded center. It is to hack your biology to project safety and status. It is to master the art of the pause, the gaze, and the breath. By the end of this video, you are going to have a complete roadmap for this transformation. We aren't just going to give you tips. We are going to rebuild your social operating system from the ground up. We are going to take you from the background character,
the non-player character in your own life, to the main character, but not the loud, obnoxious main character, the strong, silent type. The one who speaks softly but carries a big stick. The one who draws the eye naturally. You need to understand that this is a journey of authentic self-development. You cannot fake this forever. You have to actually become the person who is worth listening to. You have to become the person who is worth watching. And that starts with how you treat yourself. If you treat yourself like a frantic mess, the world will treat you like a frantic mess. If you treat yourself like a king, with patience, with care, with control, the world will follow suit. We are going to cover the neuroscience of presence.
We are going to cover the psychology of strategic silence. We are going to teach you how to read the invisible social currents of a room so you can navigate group dynamics like a master. We are going to show you how to handle rejection so it never shakes your frame. But it all starts here. It starts with the realization that your strategy of being loud is failing. It starts with the understanding that silence is not empty, it is full of answers. It starts with the decision to stop chasing attention and start generating it. Think about the most charismatic movie characters: James Bond, Don Draper, Thomas Shelby. Do they run around screaming? Do they laugh nervously? No, they do less. They say less. They move slower. They possess silent magnetism. They are the masters of the 93%, and you can be too. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about stripping away the layers of anxiety and social conditioning that are hiding who you are. It is about revealing the signal and removing the noise. Right now, you are all noise. We are going to turn you into the signal. So if you are tired of being the guy holding the drink in the corner who goes home feeling like he didn't really exist, if you are tired of shouting into the void, listen closely, because we are about to hand you the keys to the castle. We are about to teach you the effortless art of being irresistible, and it has nothing to do with what you say.
Let's look at the energy management aspect again, because this is where most of you fail before you even leave the house. You leave your house already drained. You are scrolling TikTok, you are worrying about work, you are thinking about your ex. Your battery is at 20%. Then you walk into a social situation and you expect to be magnetic? Physics doesn't work that way. Magnetism requires a charge. You need to be charged up. The silent magnet practices emotional regulation and conscious breathing before he even steps through the door. He is already in a state of flow. When he walks in, he adds energy to the room. People feel it. It's like a warm fire on a cold night. They gather around. If you walk in needing validation, you are a cold draft. People put on a sweater and turn away. The source material mentions physical awareness. The body constantly communicates. Relaxed, open, grounded body language signals confidence and ease, while tension or fidgeting signals anxiety. Developing this involves consciously releasing unnecessary tension. Check your shoulders right now. Are they up by your ears? Drop them. Check your hands. Are they clenched? Open them. This is the constant practice. It is a meditation in motion. The more you do it, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually, you don't have to think about it. You just are it. That is the goal. Effortless excellence. When you reach that stage, you become dangerous. In a good way.
You become the guy that other guys want to be and women want to be with. Not because you are rich or famous or the best looking, but because you are the most real. You are the most present. You are the most alive. We live in a world of zombies. People are sleepwalking through life, glued to screens, terrified of connection, addicted to dopamine. When someone wakes up, when someone becomes truly present, it is shocking. It is a pattern interrupt for the entire room. That is what shattering expectations means. People expect you to be a zombie. They expect you to be distracted. They expect you to be needy. When you look them in the eye and give them 100% of your presence, you shatter their reality. You break the script. And in that moment, you own them. This is the curiosity gap. They wonder,
Who is this guy? Why is he so calm? What does he know that I don't? That curiosity is the seed of attraction. Once you have planted that seed, you don't need to water it with words. You just let it grow. You let them come to you to find the answer. So stop trying to be the loudest guy. That game is rigged, and the prize is cheap attention. Play a different game. Play the game of silent magnetism. The rules are simple. Observe more than you speak. Breathe deeper than you think you need to. Stand your ground and let the world come to you, because 93% of the time, they are watching. Make sure they like what they see.
Now, we are going to dive into the specific chapters of this philosophy. We are going to break down the psychology of silent magnetism step by step. We are going to give you the tools to build unshakable inner confidence. We are going to teach you purposeful movement. We are going to show you how to develop authentic social intelligence. But never forget the core truth we started with. You are invisible because you are trying to be seen. Stop trying, start being, and watch how quickly the world turns its head. We talked about the 3-second fix earlier: ground, release, breathe. Let's expand on why that works on a neurochemical level. When you are anxious, your body is flooded with cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It kills your creativity, it kills your charisma, and it actually inhibits your ability to read social cues. You literally become socially dumber when you are stressed. By taking that deep breath and engaging the diaphragm, you stimulate the vagus nerve. This nerve runs from your brain to your gut. It is the superhighway of your nervous system. Stimulating it sends a direct, all-clear signal to your brain. It flushes out the cortisol and allows dopamine and serotonin to return. Suddenly, you are smarter, you are wittier, you are more observant. You catch the subtle glance from across the room that you would have missed 10 seconds ago because you were too busy worrying about your hands.
This is why the silent magnet always seems to know the right thing to do. He isn't psychic, he is just chemically optimized. He is operating with a clear signal while everyone else is fighting through static. And let's touch on mirror neurons one more time. These are the brain cells that allow us to empathize. When you watch someone cry, you feel sad. When you watch someone laugh, you want to smile. When you watch someone panic, you feel anxious.
Let's get real for a second. We need to talk about that exhausting, heavy feeling in your chest when you walk into a room and immediately feel like you're on stage. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that split-second panic where you think, I need to say something funny, I need to look cool, I need to make sure everyone here knows I'm relevant. That impulse to fill the silence, to laugh a little too loud at a joke that wasn't even funny, or to agree with an opinion you actually hate just to avoid friction. We call this the dancing monkey syndrome. It is the single biggest killer of attraction. It is the death of magnetism. And the worst part is that most of you are doing it completely unconsciously. You are performing for your dinner. You are banging the cymbals, hoping the audience throws you a peanut of validation. And here is the brutal truth that we are going to dissect today. The harder you dance, the less they watch. The louder you scream for attention, the more invisible you become. We have to strip this down to the studs, because this isn't just a bad habit, it is a biological signal that you are broadcasting to the world. When we talk about the dancing monkey, we are talking about the tiring, endless act of performing for validation. It is the antithesis of the silent magnetism we are striving for. Think about the last time you were in a conversation with someone who is clearly trying too hard.
Maybe they were name-dropping. Maybe they were telling a story that was clearly exaggerated. Or maybe they were just hovering, waiting for a gap in the conversation to insert themselves. Did you feel drawn to them? Did you feel a magnetic pull toward their energy? No, you felt a microscopic recoil. You felt what the internet likes to call the ick. But why? Why does effort, which is usually a good thing in work or the gym, become repellent in social dynamics? This is where we have to look at the neuroscience of desperation. You need to understand that human beings are walking, talking biofeedback machines. We are evolutionarily programmed to detect what is called incongruence. This is a concept heavily backed by research from Harvard's social, cognitive, and affective neuroscience labs. Your brain, and the brains of everyone you meet, are constantly scanning for social signals.
We are talking about mirror neurons firing in milliseconds. These neurons unconsciously evaluate emotional states and behavioral patterns. When you are performing, when you are in dancing monkey mode, there is a mismatch between your internal state and your external behavior. Internally, you are anxious, you are worried about being liked, you are scanning for approval. But externally, you are trying to project confidence, you are forcing a smile, you are puffing out your chest, you are rehearsing your lines. That mismatch creates a frequency of micro-anxiety.
And here is the kicker. People can smell it. They might not be able to articulate it. They won't say, oh, his cortisol levels are high and his mirror neurons is firing incongruently. They will just say, something is off about that guy. Or, I don't know, I just didn't vibe with him. That intuitive vibe is their primitive brain recognizing that you are faking it. You are triggering their danger response. In the wild, an animal that is behaving erratically or masking its true intentions is a threat. It's a liability. So when you try to mask your insecurity with loud storytelling or people-pleasing, you aren't hiding. You are flashing a neon sign that says, I am not safe, I am not stable, and I need something from you. Let's dig deeper into the try-hard paradox. This is the economic theory of social status. In any economy, value is determined by supply and demand. If a resource is scarce, it is valuable. If a resource is abundant and thrown in your face, it is cheap. When you are the dancing monkey, you are flooding the market with your attention. You are giving it away for free to anyone who will look at you. You are oversupplying. And unconsciously, the people around you devalue that supply. It's the difference between a luxury boutique where you have to ring a bell to get in and a kiosk at the mall where the guy is chasing you down to sell you hand cream. Who has the higher status? Who has the magnetism?
The person who is grounded in their own value, or the person begging you to buy. The paradox is that the harder you try to be liked, the more your status drops. It is a linear relationship. Every ounce of visible effort to impress is a signal that you perceive yourself as less than. You are placing the other person on a pedestal and dancing below them. And human nature is cruel in this regard. We do not look up to the people who are dancing for us. We look down on them. We might be entertained for a moment, sure, but we are not attracted. We do not respect them. Attraction requires a level of respect. It requires you to be a challenge, a mystery, a solid entity. The dancing monkey is none of those things. The dancing monkey is predictable. The dancing monkey is safe, but in a pathetic way. And ultimately, the dancing monkey is exhausting to be around because the audience feels the pressure to clap. Now, I want to talk about the physical manifestation of this syndrome because the source material is very clear on this. Dr. Albert Mehrabian's research, the famous 738-55 rule, tells us that 55% of communication is body language and presence. Only 7% is the actual words you say. So you can have the funniest script, the coolest stories, the most interesting facts, but if your body is screaming, please like me, that 55% will override everything else. The dancing monkey manifests in what we call leakage.
It leaks out in your posture. Maybe you're leaning in too much, invading personal space because you need that connection. It leaks out in your breathing, shallow upper chest breathing that signals a fight or flight response. It leaks out in your eyes, darting around the room, checking to see if people are laughing, seeking reassurance. This creates a feedback loop of anxiety. You feel anxious, so you perform. The performance feels fake, so you feel more anxious. The audience senses the fake performance, so they pull back. You sense them pulling back, so you dance harder. You tell a louder joke. You interrupt someone to prove you're smart. And the spiral continues until you leave the interaction feeling drained, empty, and wondering why you didn't connect. It is a tragedy because underneath that performance is a genuine person who is worthy of connection. But nobody gets to meet that person because the monkey is standing in the way. We have to address the nice guy or people pleaser aspect of this syndrome too. This is the quieter version of dancing monkey. This is the person who agrees with everything. Oh, you like sushi? I love sushi. You hate that movie? Yeah, it was terrible. This is a chameleon act. And you might think this makes you likable. You might think, I'm being agreeable. I'm making it easy for them. But actually, you are being boring. You are being a non-entity. There is no friction, no texture to your personality.
You are a mirror reflecting back whatever is in front of you. And while that might be safe, it is not magnetic. Magnetism requires polarity. It requires a strong signal. A magnet has a north and a south pole. It pushes and pulls. If you are just a blob of gray, agreeable mush, there is no attraction. You are just background noise. The source material points out that true silent magnetism taps into primitive brain functions. Our subconscious recognizes genuine confidence, emotional stability, and social intelligence as markers of genetic fitness. Let's get primal for a second. We are looking for partners and allies who can handle the pressure of survival. The dancing monkey is demonstrating that they cannot handle social pressure. They are buckling under the weight of a silence. If you can't handle a 3-second pause in a conversation without freaking out and blabbering, how are you going to handle a crisis? How are you going to handle a high-stakes negotiation? How are you going to handle raising a family? These are the unconscious questions people are asking when they look at you, and the dancing monkey answers them all with a resounding, "I can't handle it." So how do we kill the monkey? How do we stop the performance? We have to shift the paradigm entirely. The dancing monkey is obsessed with the wrong question. The monkey is constantly asking, do they like me? Am I doing enough? Is this working? This is an external locus of focus.
You are giving all your power away to the room. We need to flip the script. The question you need to be asking, the mantra of silent magnetism, is, do I feel grounded right now? Notice the shift. We are moving from them to you. We are moving from likability to groundedness. When you focus on being grounded, you stop performing and you start inhabiting your body. You stop projecting outward and you start resting inward. This brings us to the concept of partial presence versus true presence. Most people are operating on partial presence. They are half listening, half planning their next sentence. They are physically in the room, but mentally they are in the future, worrying about the outcome of the interaction. That is low-value energy. That is draining. True presence, the antidote to the dancing monkey, is about energy management. It's about emotional regulation. It is the ability to sit in a moment, even an awkward one, and be completely okay. Imagine you are at a party. There is a lull in the conversation. The old you, the dancing monkey, would panic. You'd start talking about the weather or showing a meme on your phone. The new you, the magnetic you, just sits there. You take a deep breath. You look the person in the eye. You smile, not a fake grimace, but a relaxed softening of the face. You are comfortable in the silence. You are comfortable with yourself. Do you know what happens in that moment? The other person relaxes. They feel a wave of relief because you aren't demanding anything from them. You aren't demanding a reaction. You are creating a vacuum of safety. And nature abhors a vacuum. They will fill that space, and they will fill it with genuine interest because you have signaled that you are a high-status individual who doesn't need to dance to feel worthy. You have signaled psychological safety. This is a massive concept in the source text. A regulated nervous system invites others to regulate. When you are calm, you make others calm. When you are anxious, you make others anxious. It's that simple. We need to talk about the micro signals of attractiveness again, but this time from the perspective of the cure. When you kill the dancing monkey, your micro signals change. Your breathing drops from your chest to your diaphragm. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. When you are in this mode, your voice resonates deeper. You aren't squeaking out words from a tight throat. You are speaking from your gut. Your movements become fluid. The dancing monkey is jerky, twitchy, fast. The magnetic individual is slow, deliberate, fluid. Think about the way a predator moves versus the way prey moves. Prey is twitchy. It's constantly scanning for danger. A lion moves slowly. It turns its head slowly. It blinks slowly. It doesn't need to rush because it isn't afraid. This is the try-hard paradox reversed.
By trying less, you achieve more. By doing less, you communicate more. You are harnessing the power of the minimum effective dose. Why use 10 words when 3 will do? Why wave your arms around when a single subtle gesture commands more attention? This is what we call value density. High-value people have high-value density. Low-value people are full of fluff. The dancing monkey is all fluff. It is noise without signal. Let's relate this to modern internet culture for a second. We live in the age of the pick-me. The pick-me is just the digital version of the dancing monkey. It's the person in the comment section screaming for validation. It's the person posting thirst traps with captions about their dissertation. It's incongruent, and we all see it. We scroll past it. But when you see a creator or a person in real life who is just doing their thing, who is completely absorbed in their craft or their thoughts, who doesn't seem to care if there is a camera on them or not, that is viral. That is magnetic. We call that main character energy, but the real definition is internal validation. They are the protagonist of their own movie, not an extra in yours trying to get screen time. The shift requires you to stop asking, "Do I look good?" and start asking, "Do I feel good?" And I don't mean feel good as in happy. I mean feel good as in capable, solid, present. This brings us to the concept of embodied cognition.
Your body isn't just a taxi for your brain. Your body influences your brain. If you force yourself to stop fidgeting, if you force yourself to take up space and breathe slowly, your brain gets the signal. Oh, we must be safe. We must be in charge. And the anxiety dissipates. You can reverse engineer charisma by controlling the physical vessel, but you have to be willing to let people misunderstand you. This is the hardest part for the recovering dancing monkey. You have to be okay with the fact that if you stop performing, some people might think you're quiet. Some might think you're serious. Good. Let them. You are weaning them off the cheap entertainment. You are training them to respect your presence. You are trading being entertained by you for being intrigued by you. And intrigue is the precursor to obsession. Intrigue is the hook. You cannot be intriguing if you are explaining everything. You cannot be mysterious if you are broadcasting every thought that enters your head. Silence creates a curiosity gap. When you don't instantly fill the air, people start to wonder, what is he thinking? What is she feeling? That wonder is the seed of attraction. The dancing monkey kills curiosity because it gives everything away up front. It spoils the movie trailer. You want to be the teaser. You want to be the open loop. This also ties into the incongruence factor we mentioned earlier. Authenticity is magnetic.
If you are feeling nervous and you try to act like James Bond, you fail. But if you are feeling nervous and you just own that feeling, you take a breath, you slow down, and you stay with it. That is strangely attractive. It shows courage. It shows you aren't afraid of your own internal state. The source text talks about distress tolerance. This is the ability to experience a negative emotion without reacting to it. The dancing monkey has zero distress tolerance. They feel a pang of awkwardness and they immediately react to fix it. The magnetic person feels the pang, acknowledges it, and chooses not to move. They ride the wave. That is power. That is status. Let's look at the hero's problem here. You think that if you stop dancing, you will be abandoned. You think that your value lies in your utility as an entertainer. That is the lie your anxiety tells you. The truth is, your value lies in your existence. Your value lies in your unique perspective, your genuine reactions, your true self. But you have buried that self under layers of people-pleasing algorithms. You are running a script that was written by a scared child who wanted to be loved. It's time to rewrite the script. Stop asking for permission to exist. The dancing monkey is constantly asking for permission. Is it okay if I speak now? Is it okay if I make this joke? Is it okay if I leave? The magnetic individual moves with intent. They speak when they have something to say.
They leave when they are done. They laugh when something is actually funny. This honesty is refreshing. In a world of fake news, filters, and curated personas, raw honesty is the most scarce resource. And remember, scarcity equals value. When you commit to this shift, you are going to feel a withdrawal. You are addicted to the cheap dopamine hits of immediate validation. When you stop dancing, you might not get that instant laugh. You might not get that instant head nod. And your brain is going to scream, "It's not working! Dance again! Dance!" You have to hold the line. You have to trust the process of silent attraction. You are playing the long game now. You are building respect,
not just looking for a reaction. Think about the difference between a dog and a cat. A dog is a dancing monkey. It jumps, it barks, it licks your face, it begs for love. We love dogs, sure, but we don't respect them in the same way we respect a cat. A cat enters the room, it looks at you, it maybe sits down, it decides if it wants to interact. And when a cat chooses to sit on your lap, you feel special, you feel chosen. Why? Because the cat doesn't do that for everyone. The cat is discerning. The dancing monkey is a golden retriever trying to please everyone. Be the cat. Be discerning with your energy. This goes back to energy management. Your energy is your currency. Do not spend it on people who aren't paying attention. Do not spend it trying to convert people who are committed to misunderstanding you. When you conserve your energy, it builds up inside you. It becomes a reservoir, and that reservoir creates a pressure, a gravity field. That is what people feel when they talk about someone having a presence. Presence is just contained energy. It is potential energy waiting to be released. The dancing monkey is kinetic energy, spraying everywhere. It's messy. We also need to address the cognitive empathy aspect. The dancing monkey is actually very selfish. I know, that sounds harsh. You think you're doing it for them, but you're not. You're doing it to soothe your own anxiety. You are focusing on your performance, your appearance, your words. You aren't actually seeing the other person. You aren't listening to them. You are just waiting for your turn to perform. True silent magnetism requires you to get out of your head and into theirs. When you stop worrying about how you look, you can actually start observing how they feel. You can read the room. You can see the micro expressions on their face. This is where social intelligence comes online. You can't read social dynamics if your internal HUD is cluttered with anxiety warnings. When you clear the screen, when you stop the dance, you start to see the matrix. You see who actually holds the power in the room. You see who is feeling left out. You see the hidden tensions.
And because you see them, you can navigate them. You can become the conductor of the interaction, rather than the clown. This is the difference between being a participant and being a leader. Leaders don't dance. Leaders direct. So, here is the actionable takeaway. The next time you walk into a room, I want you to do a body scan. Are your shoulders up by your ears? Drop them. Is your jaw clenched? Release it. Is your tongue pressed against the roof of your mouth? Let it go. Are you preparing a story? Delete it. Walk in with zero agenda. Your only goal is to find your ground. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the air in your lungs. Look at the colors in the room. Ground yourself in the physical reality of the moment. And when someone talks to you, don't rush to answer. Take a beat. Let the silence hang for a microsecond. Process what they said, and then respond with truth. If you don't have anything to say, be comfortable saying nothing, or simply ask a question. What do you mean by that? Tell me more. Shift the spotlight. The dancing monkey hoards the spotlight because they are afraid of the dark. The magnetic master shines the spotlight on others because they know they are the light. This is not about becoming an introvert. It is not about being cold. It is about being deliberate. It is about intentionality. Every movement, every word, every look should have a purpose behind it. No nervous tics, no filler words.
No ums and ahs and likes, just clean, direct communication. This signals competence. It signals that you are in control of your vehicle. And remember the neuroscience. Your brain has mirror neurons. When you watch someone who is frantic, you feel frantic. When you watch someone who is grounded, you feel grounded. Be the anchor in the storm. The world is chaotic. People are anxious. They are doom scrolling. They are over-caffeinated. They are stressed. When they meet someone who is not vibrating on that frantic frequency, it is intoxicating. It is like drinking a glass of cold water after a run. They will want to be around you just to get a contact high from your calm. That is silent magnetism. You are moving from a push dynamic to a pull dynamic. The dancing monkey pushes. They push their personality. They push their agenda. They push for approval. Pushing creates resistance. If I push you, your instinct is to push back or step away. Pulling creates invitation. When you lean back, when you create space, you invite people to lean in. You create a gravitational well. So stop the dance, put down the cymbals, step off the stage. Realize that you are enough just as you are, standing there, breathing, observing. You don't need to earn your place in the room. You occupy space, therefore you belong. Internalize that. The moment you stop trying to prove you are worthy is the moment everyone else realizes you are.
This connects directly to the concept of status we see in evolutionary psychology. The alpha, or the leader, or whatever term you want to use, is rarely the loudest person. They are the most watchful person. They are the one assessing threats and opportunities. The jester is the loud one. Do not be the jester. Be the king or queen of your own internal kingdom. Let's talk about incongruence one last time because it is the fatal error. If you are sad and you act happy, you are incongruent. If you are angry and you act nice, you are incongruent. People trust congruence even if the emotion is negative. If you are angry and you say calmly, "I am feeling frustrated right now," people respect that. It matches. But if you are seething with rage and you have a plastered-on smile, you look like a psychopath. The dancing monkey is always incongruent because they are prioritizing politeness over truth. Attraction lives in truth. Even ugly truth is better than a pretty lie. The shift to "do I feel grounded" is also a shift to self-compassion. The dancing monkey beats themselves up. Why did I say that? I'm so stupid. The grounded person treats themselves with curiosity. I felt a bit of anxiety there. Interesting. Let me breathe through that. You become a scientist of your own experience rather than a judge. This lack of self-judgment translates to a lack of judgment for others, and that is the ultimate magnet.
People want to be around people who don't judge them. When you stop judging yourself for not performing, you stop judging others for their flaws. You become a safe harbor. We are talking about high-retention storytelling in your own life. The story you are telling with your body matters. If your body is telling a story of desperation, no one wants to read it. If your body is telling a story of "I know who I am and I am comfortable here," that is a bestseller. That is the story that gets the views, the likes, and the dates. But you can't fake the story. You have to live it. So the next time you feel that urge to perform, I want you to visualize a stop sign. Literally, visualize a giant red stop. Catch yourself in the act. I am dancing right now. And then simply stop. Drop the act. Return to your breath. It will feel terrifying for a second. You will feel exposed. But in that exposure lies your power. You are stripping away the costume to reveal the person. And the person is what we are here for. The person is the prize. To summarize the section on the dancing monkey, the problem is the belief that you need to do more to be more. The neuroscience proves that doing more often signals less value. The paradox is that by trying to raise your status, you lower it. The solution is a fundamental shift in your internal question from "do they like me?" to "am I grounded?" This shift changes your biology, your microsignals, and your energy.
It moves you from repelling desperation to silent magnetism. It turns you from a commodity that is begging to be bought into a luxury that has to be earned. Stop dancing, start being. That is the essence of being irresistible. It's not about the tricks, it's not about the lines, it's about the silence and the confidence to let that silence speak for you. Because when you stop making noise, you finally start making an impact.
Let's talk about the ghost signal. You know exactly what I'm talking about, even if you've never had a word for it before. It's that invisible, almost electric current you feel when someone walks into a room. You're at a party or a networking event, or maybe just standing in line for coffee, and someone steps into your periphery. They haven't said a word, they haven't done a backflip, they're just standing there. But suddenly the air shifts. You feel a gravitational pull toward them. You feel safer, you feel interested. You feel like you need to know who that person is. That is the ghost signal. And here is the brutal truth that most self-help gurus won't tell you. You cannot fake this. You can't script it. You can't pose your way into it. Because this signal isn't coming from your clothes or your rehearsed opening line. It is being broadcast directly from your nervous system. We need to strip away the fluff and look at the raw biology of what is happening here. Humans are essentially walking biological radio towers. We are constantly transmitting and receiving data on a frequency that exists below the level of conscious thought. Science backs this up. Dr. Albert Mehrabian conducted research that shattered the way we think about communication. He found that words, the actual content of what you say, account for only 7% of the impact you have on another person. 7%.
That means 93% of your attractiveness, your status, and your influence is nonverbal. It's your vocal tonality, your micro-expressions, your posture, and most importantly, your energy. This is why you can say all the right things on a date or in a meeting and still get rejected. If your ghost signal is broadcasting insecurity, anxiety, or neediness, the other person's subconscious mind picks it up instantly and hits the eject button. So let's dig into the source of this signal. The source text calls it who you are when nobody is watching. This is the foundational layer of silent magnetism. Most people treat social interaction like a performance. They put on a mask. They puff out their chest, they pitch their voice lower, they try to act cool. But the human brain is a threat detection machine that has been evolving for millions of years. It is incredibly adept at spotting incongruence. Incongruence is when your words say, "I'm confident," but your microsignals say, "I'm terrified." When you try to fake status, you create a disconnect. You become like a badly dubbed movie. The audio doesn't match the video. And when people sense that disconnect, they don't think, "Oh, he's just nervous." They feel a visceral sense of wrongness. It triggers their ick response. They might not be able to articulate why, but they will want to get away from you. True silent magnetism comes from the exact opposite place.
It comes from having a nervous system that is genuinely regulated. This is where we get into the concept of emotional regulation as the ultimate status symbol. In the modern world, we often think status is about money, followers, or brand name clothes. But if we rewind the clock to our tribal origins, status was about survival. Who was the leader of the tribe? It wasn't the guy running around screaming every time a twig snapped. It wasn't the person hyperventilating about the future. The leader was the one who could stand in the middle of chaos and remain completely calm. That calm signaled genetic fitness. It signaled, "I can handle this." It signaled safety. When you walk into a room with a calm, regulated nervous system, you are hacking the evolutionary psychology of everyone in that room. You are signaling that you are high status, not because you're rich, but because you are chemically balanced and unafraid. This creates what psychologists call psychological safety. When people feel safe around you, they relax, their defenses drop, they open up. And in a world that is constantly screaming for attention, where everyone is anxious, over-caffeinated, and stressed out, a calm nervous system is the rarest and most valuable commodity on the market. If you can provide that sense of groundedness, people will become addicted to your presence. Now, let's look at the mechanism of how your internal state infects other people. This brings us to one of the most fascinating discoveries in neuroscience: mirror neurons. These are specialized neurons in the brain that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing that same action. They are the biological basis of empathy and social connection. Research from Harvard's Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience Lab indicates that our brains are constantly scanning the people around us for social signals. We are subconsciously asking, is this person safe? Are they a threat? How do they feel? Here is the kicker. Emotions are contagious, literally contagious. If you are anxious, your breathing becomes shallow, your heart rate spikes, your pupils dilate, and your muscles tense up. When you interact with someone while you are in this state, their mirror neurons pick up on these microsignals. Their brain mimics your state. Suddenly, they start to feel anxious. They feel tense. They feel your jittery energy. They might not know why, but they will associate that negative feeling with you. You become a biological hazard to their peace of mind. But the opposite is also true, and this is where you gain the superpower of silent magnetism. If you are grounded, if your breathing is deep and slow, if your muscles are relaxed, their mirror neurons will copy that state. They will feel a wave of relaxation wash over them just by being near you. Their heart rate will synchronize with yours. Their cortisol levels will drop. You are literally getting them high on their own supply of oxytocin and dopamine just by standing there.
This is why some people are so magnetic that you just want to sit next to them. You are hacking their biology to make them feel good, and the human brain is wired to move toward things that make it feel good and away from things that make it feel bad. It is that simple. So how do we actually do this? How do we hack our own nervous system to stop broadcasting anxiety and start broadcasting status? We can't just think our way into being calm. You can't tell your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, to just chill out. It doesn't speak English. It speaks body language. We have to use a physiological intervention to change a psychological state. The source material points to conscious breathing as the fundamental tool, but we are going to get specific. We are going to use a protocol that is widely recognized in neurobiology and high-performance circles. It's called the physiological sigh. This isn't just taking a deep breath. This is a specific pattern of breathing that hard resets your nervous system. Here is the science. When you are stressed or anxious, the tiny air sacs in your lungs, called alveoli, collapse. This causes carbon dioxide to build up in your bloodstream, which triggers the brain to feel even more panic. It's a feedback loop.
The physiological sigh pops those air sacs back open and offloads the carbon dioxide, instantly shifting you from a sympathetic state, fight or flight, to a parasympathetic state, rest and digest. Here is the technique. You're going to do a double inhale through the nose, followed by a long exhale through the mouth. It looks like this. You take a big, deep breath in through your nose, filling your lungs. Then, at the very top of that breath, you sneak in a second, shorter, sharper inhale through the nose to fully inflate the lungs. Then, you exhale slowly through your mouth, making the exhale twice as long as the inhale. That long exhale is the key. The exhale activates the vagus nerve, which acts like a brake pedal for your heart rate. You need to use this strategically. Before you walk into a high-stakes meeting, before you go on that date, before you enter the party, do not just walk in carrying the stress of your day. Stop, find a bathroom stall, sit in your car, or just stand in a quiet corner. Perform 2 or 3 physiological sighs. Double inhale through the nose, long exhale through the mouth. You will physically feel the jittery energy leave your body. You will feel your shoulders drop. You will feel your vision widen. You are manually down-regulating your threat response. You are turning off the anxious prey signal and turning on the calm leader signal. This practice is the difference between trying to look cool and actually being magnetic.
When you master your internal state, you stop reacting to the room and you start influencing the room. Most people are thermometers. They walk into a room and their energy goes up or down depending on the temperature of the social environment. If people are mean, they get defensive. If people are hype, they get manic. You want to be the thermostat. You set the temperature. You walk in with a regulated, grounded nervous system, and because of the power of mirror neurons and the strength of your signal, the room adjusts to you. This is the foundation of who you are when nobody is watching. It's not about morality in this context. It's about neuroregulation. It's about cultivating a baseline state of calm confidence that exists whether there is an audience or not. When you are alone, are you breathing deeply? Are you relaxed? Or are you doom scrolling with your shoulders up to your ears? The work you do in the dark, the breathing, the awareness, the regulation, manifests as magnetism in the light. When you consistently practice this, you develop what is called distress tolerance. This means you can experience high-pressure situations without your nervous system freaking out. While everyone else is getting triggered, getting defensive, or getting awkward, you remain the eye of the storm. This is incredibly attractive because it signals capability. It signals that you are a resource, not a liability.
In a relationship, a partner wants to know that when things get hard, you aren't going to crumble. They want to know you can hold the frame. In business, clients want to know you can handle the crisis. That trust starts before you open your mouth. It starts with the signal you are broadcasting. Remember, silent attraction is an inside-out game. You cannot paint over a crumbling foundation. If your internal world is chaotic, your external world will be messy, no matter how nice your suit is. But if you regulate your internal world, if you hack your biology to project calm, the external world bends toward you. You stop chasing attention. You stop performing. You simply exist, grounded and present. And people are naturally drawn into your orbit because being around you feels like taking a deep breath after holding it for a lifetime. That is the power of the ghost signal. That is the effortless art of being irresistible.
Let's get into the deep end of the pool. We are talking about the most underutilized, terrifying, and effective tool in your social arsenal: silence. But not just silence. We are talking about weaponized silence. This is the section on status play and authority in communication. And before you check out thinking this is about giving people the silent treatment or acting like a stoic statue, stop. That is low status behavior. That is defensive. What we are discussing here is the offensive use of space. It is about how to dominate a room without raising your voice. It is about becoming a gravitational black hole that pulls people toward you simply because you have the courage to stop making noise. Think about the last time you were in a conversation that hit a lull, that awkward, heavy pause. What did you do? Be honest. Your heart rate probably spiked. You felt a flash of social panic. You felt the primitive urge to fill that void with anything: a joke, a comment about the weather, a nervous laugh. You frantically searched your brain for a topic just to bridge the gap. That reaction is instinctual. It is your brain screaming that silence equals rejection. In the tribal days, if the tribe went silent when you walked in, you were in trouble. But here is the reality check for the modern world. That panic is the smell of low status. That panic signals that you are uncomfortable with yourself. It signals that you need the external validation of constant noise to feel safe. We are going to flip that script entirely. We are going to reframe silence. It is not emptiness. It is not a void that needs to be filled with garbage. Silence is space. And in the laws of social physics, space is power. Think of it like a vacuum. If you create a vacuum, nature rushes to fill it. When you have the confidence to create silence in a conversation, you create a vacuum that the other person feels compelled to fill. This is the secret of the chase. You want people to chase you? Stop running toward them with your words. Stop over-explaining. Stop vomiting information. Create space. When you stop speaking, you force the other person to lean in. You force them to invest energy into the interaction. And the more energy they invest, the more valuable you become in their subconscious mind. This is how you let them chase you. This leads us directly to the first major drill. This is a tactical nuke for your social interactions. It is called the 3-second pause. I want you to visualize a standard high-pressure scenario, maybe a job interview, maybe a first date, maybe a tense negotiation. The other person asks you a question. So tell me about your last project, or why did your last relationship end? What does the average person do? They answer immediately. They jump on the end of the sentence like it's a grenade they need to smother. They start talking before the other person has even finished exhaling. Why do we do this? We do it because we are afraid that if we pause, we look stupid. We are afraid that if we pause, we look unprepared. We think speed equals intelligence. We are wrong. Rushing your answer signals anxiety. It signals that you are desperate to please. It signals that you are running a script, trying to get the right answer out so you can get the pat on the head. High-status individuals operate on a different time zone. They are never in a rush. When you are the authority, time belongs to you. So here is the drill. For the next week, every single time someone asks you a question, whether it's your boss, your partner, or the barista asking what size coffee you want, I want you to wait 3 full seconds before you answer. 1, 2, 3. This is going to feel like an eternity. Your brain is going to scream at you. You are going to feel a physical itch to speak. Fight it. Hold the line. Maintain eye contact. Keep your body relaxed. Do not look away. Just breathe. And then, only after that 3-second count, you deliver your answer. Here's what happens psychologically when you do this. First, you regulate your own nervous system. You take a breath. You stop the fight or flight loop. You actually give yourself time to think, which means your answer will be more intelligent and more grounded. But more importantly, look at what it does to the other person. When you pause and hold eye contact, you project immense confidence. You are signaling, I am comfortable enough in my own skin to take up this time. I am not afraid of your judgment. It makes you look thoughtful. It makes you look in control. It subcommunicates that your words are valuable, so you don't just throw them away cheaply, you curate them. And there is a darker, more powerful side to this too. That 3-second silence creates a microdose of anxiety in the other person. For a split second, they wonder, did I ask a stupid question? What are they thinking? That little spike of tension is crucial. It breaks their autopilot. It forces them to pay 100% attention to what you are about to say. You are literally commanding their focus by doing nothing. That is the definition of silent magnetism. You are not begging for attention, you are commanding it by withholding the reward of your voice. Now, let's move to the other side of the equation. We have talked about how you speak or don't speak. Now we need to talk about how you listen, because most of you are doing it wrong. Most people do not listen, they reload. Watch a group of friends talking at a bar. Watch a corporate meeting. It is not a dialogue, it is a series of intersecting monologues. Person A is talking, person B is nodding, but look at their eyes. They are glazed over. They aren't absorbing the information.
They are mentally rehearsing what they are going to say the moment person A takes a breath. They are reloading their ammo. They are just waiting for their turn to speak. This is partial presence, and it is repulsive. It signals that you don't care about the other person. You only care about your own performance. It is a subtle form of narcissism, and people can feel it viscerally. It makes interactions draining. To be high status, to be magnetic, you have to kill the urge to reload. You have to practice deep listening. This is not just nodding and saying, uh-huh. This is active, predatory focus. You need to listen to understand, not to respond. You need to turn off the voice in your head that is planning your next witty comeback or your next story. When you truly listen to someone, when you lock in on their eyes, when you observe their body language, when you hear the emotional subtext beneath their words, something chemical happens in their brain. You trigger a massive release of oxytocin. That is the bonding hormone. It is the same hormone released during physical intimacy. When you make someone feel truly heard, you are getting them high. You are giving them a chemical gift that most people in their life are too selfish to give them. But we need a tool to make this practical, because just listen is vague advice. I want you to use a technique called reflective feedback.
This is how you prove you are listening and how you deepen the connection without having to be interesting yourself. Here's how it works. The other person tells you a story. Maybe they are complaining about their day. My boss is a nightmare. He changed the deadline again at 5 p.m. The reloader would say, oh yeah, my boss is crazy too. Let me tell you what he did. They hijack the conversation. They make it about themselves. The deep listener uses reflective feedback. You strip away the details and you reflect back the emotion. You say, it sounds like you're feeling incredibly disrespected because he doesn't value your time. Boom, that is it. You didn't add a new story, you didn't try to be funny. You held up a mirror to their emotional state. And the reaction you will get is almost universal. They will exhale, their shoulders will drop. They will look at you and say, exactly. That moment, that exactly is the moment you have won. That is the moment of connection. They feel understood. They feel safe. And because you are the source of that safety, they project all those positive feelings onto you. You become the most interesting person in the room, not because of what you said, but because of how you made them feel about themselves. You allowed them to be the main character, and in doing so, you became the director of the movie. That is authority.
Now, this brings us to the final and perhaps most difficult rule of high-status communication, the no advice rule. This is going to go against your instincts, especially if you are a logical, problem-solving type of person. When someone presents a problem to us, our instinct is to fix it. We want to offer a solution. We want to be the hero. Oh, your car broke down? You should call this mechanic. Oh, you're fighting with your spouse? You should read this book. We think we are being helpful, but psychologically, giving unsolicited advice is often a status grab. It implies, I know more than you. I am competent, you are incompetent. I will save you. It creates a subtle hierarchy where you are up here and they are down there. And more often than not, it annoys people, because usually people are not sharing their problems because they want a mechanic. They are sharing their problems because they want emotional validation. They want to be heard. High-status people, people who are truly secure in their authority, do not feel the need to prove their competence by fixing everyone else's life. They know they are valuable. They don't need to audition for it by handing out solutions. The no advice rule states that unless someone explicitly asks you, "What do you think I should do?" you offer 0 solutions, none. You simply listen. You use reflective feedback. You ask follow-up questions. So, how did that handle that? What are you going to do next? You put the ball back in their court. This does 2 things. First, it respects their autonomy. It signals that you trust them to handle their own business. That is a massive compliment. It treats them like a peer, not a child. Second, it protects your status. When you give advice and the person rejects it, yeah, but that won't work because you have lost status. You offered value and it was declined. You chased and you were rejected. By withholding advice, you remain the observer. You remain the rock. You are the sounding board, not the construction worker. And the irony is, by not trying to fix them, you create a level of intimacy and trust that makes them want your advice eventually. And when they finally ask for it, when they say, "Honestly, I don't know what to do. What would you do?" Now your words have weight. Now your advice is a prize they have earned, not a flyer you handed out on the street corner. Let's tie this all together. This entire section on communication is about restraint. It is about doing less to achieve more. The average person is frantic. They are terrified of silence, so they fill it with noise. They are terrified of being misunderstood, so they rush their answers. They are terrified of not being valuable, so they force-feed advice. You are stepping out of that game. You are embracing the power of the pause. You are using the 3-second count to signal dominance and self-control. You are stopping the reload and starting to listen, using reflective feedback to trigger that oxytocin bond. And you are shutting down the urge to fix, allowing your silence to create a space where true trust can be built. This is not about being passive. This is the most active thing you can do. It requires immense discipline to hold your tongue when your brain is screaming to speak, but the reward is worth it. When you master weaponized silence, you stop chasing the world. The world quiets down, looks at you, and waits for your next move. Now, I want you to practice this today, not tomorrow, today. In your next conversation, be the one who speaks less. Be the one who is comfortable in the void. Watch how people react. Watch how they start to work for your attention. Watch how the dynamic shifts. You are not empty. You are spacious. And in a noisy world, space is the ultimate luxury. Own it.
Let's get real about something that is happening to you right now, probably while you are listening to this. It is called the silverback effect, and it is the difference between walking into a room and being invisible or walking into a room and having the atmosphere shift without you saying a single word. We are diving deep into the biological hardwiring of your existence. This is not about standing up straight because your grandma told you to. This is about embodied cognition and primal dominance. This is the hardware update for your social presence. You need to understand a concept called embodied cognition. Most people think their mind controls their body. You think, "I feel happy," so you smile. You think, "I feel confident," so you stand tall. But the science, specifically research coming out of places like Harvard Business School, proves that this highway runs in both directions. In fact, the traffic moving from your body to your brain is often heavier and faster. Your posture does not just reflect your mood, it creates it. It is a positive feedback loop, but for most people, it is currently a death spiral. When you collapse your body, when you shrink into your chair, your brain receives a signal that says, "We are small, we are in danger, we are low status." Your brain then floods your system with cortisol, the stress hormone, and drops your testosterone. You literally chemically engineer yourself to be submissive and anxious.
You are manufacturing your own insecurity through your geometry. But the reverse is true. When you expand, when you take up space, when you open your chest, your brain gets a different signal. It hears, "We are safe. We are in control. We are the leader." This brings us to the anti-turtle check. Look at modern society. Look at yourself in a reflection when you are on your phone. Head down, shoulders rolled forward, spine curved. You look like a turtle hiding in its shell. We call this tech neck. but biologically, it is the posture of a defeated creature. It is the universal sign of submission in the animal kingdom. When you protect your vital organs by hunching over, you are telling the world, and more importantly, your own nervous system, that you are prey. You need to run the anti-turtle check every time you walk through a door. It is a physical reset. Imagine there is a string attached to the crown of your head, pulling you gently upward. You do not want to be stiff. You are not a soldier at attention. That is rigidity, and rigidity signals fear. You want length. You want expansion. Roll your shoulders up, back, and down. Expose your chest. This is crucial. Exposing your torso is a primal signal of fearlessness. It says, I am not afraid of attack. This simple adjustment triggers that chemical shift we talked about.
Within 2 minutes of holding a high power pose, your testosterone, the dominance and confidence hormone, can spike, and your cortisol can drop. You are biohacking your way into a state of command. Now, let's move to the movement audit. This is where most people fail the vibe check instantly. There is a specific cadence to high-status behavior. I want you to think about the difference between a squirrel and a silverback gorilla/lion. How does a squirrel move? It is twitchy, it is fast, it darts, it looks around constantly. It is hyper-vigilant because it is food. It is scanning for threats. Now picture a silverback apex predator. How does it move? Slowly, fluidly. It moves with absolute economy. This is the binary you need to internalize. Fast, twitchy movement signals prey. Slow, fluid movement signals predator, or in human terms, leader. When you are constantly fidgeting, tapping your foot, checking your pockets, or whipping your head around to look at every noise, you are broadcasting anxiety. You are screaming that you are not comfortable in your environment. You need to slow down. High-status individuals operate on their own time. They do not rush because they do not feel the pressure of the environment. They exert pressure on the environment. Audit your movements. When you reach for your coffee, do it smoothly. When you turn your head to look at someone, turn your whole torso. Be deliberate.
Eliminate the micro movements that do not serve a purpose. If you are not using a muscle to achieve a specific goal, relax it. This creates that grounded presence we talked about earlier. It is the physical manifestation of having nothing to prove and nothing to fear. It is about being heavy in a good way. Imagine your center of gravity is low, below your navel. You are not a leaf blowing in the wind. You are a rock in the river. The water moves around you. Let's talk about space. In every social interaction, there is a negotiation of space. Insecure people try to take up as little space as possible. They cross their legs, they fold their arms, they keep their elbows glued to their ribs. They are trying to minimize their footprint to avoid conflict. Magnetic people, those with silent attraction, are comfortable taking up the space they deserve. I am not telling you to manspread on a crowded subway or be a jerk who blocks the aisle. That is arrogance, not confidence. But I am telling you to stop shrinking. Put your arm on the back of the chair. Stand with your feet shoulder-width apart. Own the 3 feet of atmosphere surrounding your body. When you are comfortable in your space, you create a vacuum of safety that draws others in. But here is the catch. You cannot just fake the body language and expect it to work forever if the internal software is corrupted. You can stand like a Superman, but if you feel like a fraud, that incongruence will leak out. Humans are lie detectors. We can spot a fake alpha pose from a mile away because it looks rigid and forced. This leads us to the most critical component of this section, the competence loop. There is a lot of advice out there telling you to stand in front of a mirror and shout affirmations at yourself. I am a tiger, I am a champion, I am irresistible. If that works for you, great. But for most intelligent people, that feels ridiculous. It feels like a lie. Why? Because your brain needs evidence. You cannot trick your subconscious with words. You have to convince it with data. Real confidence, the kind that naturally relaxes your shoulders and slows down your breathing without you thinking about it, comes from competence. It comes from knowing deep in your bones that you are capable. This is what the source text refers to as self-efficacy. How do you build this? You build it through productive discomfort. You have to do hard things. You have to put yourself in situations where you might fail, where you feel that spike of adrenaline, and then you have to survive them. When you navigate a difficult negotiation, when you learn a complex skill, when you push your body through a grueling workout, when you speak up in a meeting despite your voice shaking, you are gathering data points. Every time you overcome resistance, your brain files that away as proof.
Oh, we can handle stress. We can handle uncertainty. The more evidence you accumulate, the less you have to try to be confident. You just are. The silverback does not walk tall because he practiced his posture in a mirror. He walks tall because he has handled threats before. He knows his strength. He is competent in his survival. This is the competence loop. You accept a challenge, you endure the discomfort, you gain competence, and your natural baseline confidence rises. As your baseline confidence rises, your body language naturally opens up. You stop twitching, you stop shrinking. You become the predator, not the prey, because you know you can handle whatever the environment throws at you. So here is your integration practice for this section. It is twofold. First, the physical intervention. Catch yourself shrinking. Catch the turtle. Every time you look at your phone, bring the phone up to your eyes. Do not drop your head to the phone. When you are walking down the street, slow your pace by 10%. Feel your feet hit the ground. Force your movements to be fluid. If you feel the urge to scratch your nose or check your pocket, stop. Override the twitch. Be still. There is immense power in stillness. Second, the internal engine. Stop looking for shortcuts to confidence. Go find something difficult to do today. Go lift a weight that feels too heavy. Go have that awkward conversation you have been avoiding.
Go learn the basics of a skill you suck at. Feed your brain the evidence of your own competence. When you combine these two, the intentional, fluid, expansive physicality of embodied cognition with the rock-solid internal foundation of competence, you stop playing a character, you stop performing attractiveness. You simply become a heavy, magnetic object in a world of lightweight drifters. You become the signal in the noise, and that is silent magnetism. You want to know the difference between someone who enters a room and instantly commands respect versus someone who blends into the beige wallpaper? It is not about having the loudest voice, the most expensive watch, or the funniest rehearsed pickup line. It is about vision. Most people walk into a social environment with their internal camera pointed squarely at themselves. They are obsessing over their hair, rehearsing their opening line, worrying if their fly is unzipped, and frantically scanning for a friendly face to cling to like a life raft. They are socially blind because they are trapped in the prison of self-consciousness. The master of silent magnetism, however, flips that camera outward. They enter a room like a high-level operator, engaging in what we call social situational awareness. This is the art of reading the room before you even open your mouth, and it is the foundational skill of the social sniper. Let's break down exactly what this scanning process looks like, because this isn't just about looking around, it is about data collection. When you enter a new environment, your brain should be picking up on the invisible lines of power and influence that connect every single person in that space. Every group has a hierarchy, and I am not talking about corporate titles or who has the verified checkmark on Instagram. I am talking about primal social dynamic hierarchies.
There is always a leader, there is always a challenger, there are supporters, and there are outliers. If you walk in and immediately try to dominate the conversation without identifying the current alpha, you are going to trigger a social immune response where the group collectively rejects you. You need to identify the informal power structures. Look for who is holding court. Who are people physically turning their bodies toward? When a joke is cracked, who does everyone look at first to see if they are laughing? That person is the emotional thermostat of the group. This is where the neuroscience gets interesting. Your brain is actually wired for this. You have these things called mirror neurons that are constantly scanning for emotional states in others. The problem is, most of us override this natural instinct with our own anxiety. We are so busy thinking about what we're going to say next that we miss the massive data dump happening right in front of our faces. You need to train yourself to see the emotional undercurrents. Is the energy in the room high and chaotic? Is it low and somber? Is there a tension between two people in the corner that everyone else is awkwardly ignoring? The social sniper identifies these currents instantly. If you walk into a funeral energy room and start acting like a game show host, you are socially incongruent.
you have failed the read. Conversely, if the room is buzzing and you walk in with low, depressive energy, you are a vampire sucking the life out of the party. You have to match the energy. Then, and only then, can you lead it somewhere else. Let's go deeper into this hierarchy detection, because this is where people fumble the bag constantly. You need to distinguish between formal power and informal influence. Just because someone is the host or the boss doesn't mean they run the social dynamic. Often the person with the most influence is the one leaning back, taking up space, saying the least, but commanding the most attention when they do speak. This ties back to what we know about nonverbal communication, specifically Mehrabian's role. We know that 55% of communication is body language. The person with the most relaxed, open body language is usually the one feeling the most psychological safety, and therefore, they are often the ones setting the frame for the interaction. Watch for the person who is not fidgeting, who is not checking their phone every 3 seconds, and who is comfortable with silence. That is your target for engagement or your benchmark for the room's energy level. Once you have mapped the room, you need to execute a fundamental psychological flip. This is the generous curiosity hack, and it is the single most effective way to destroy social anxiety and skyrocket your attractiveness. Most people operate on a validator script.
Their internal monologue is a desperate, repeating loop of, I hope they like me, I hope I'm cool enough, I hope I don't say something stupid. This is prey behavior. It reeks and meatiness. You need to flip the script to the investigator mindset. Your internal monologue should switch to, I wonder what makes this person tick. I wonder what their story is. I wonder if they are interesting enough for me. Do you feel the shift in power there? You are no longer auditioning for the role of friend or partner. You are the casting director. This isn't about being arrogant or judgmental. It is about being genuinely fascinated by human complexity. The source material talks about this as a shift from self-focus to other focus. When you approach someone with the intention of finding out who they are, rather than trying to impress them, your body language naturally relaxes. You stop performing. You stop doing that weird fake laugh we all do when we are nervous. You become an observer. And here's the kicker. People love to talk about themselves. It triggers the same pleasure centers in the brain as food and money. When you offer someone to stage to share their story and you listen, I mean really listen, not just wait for your turn to speak, you become the most addictive person in the room. You are giving them a hit of dopamine just by being present. But generous curiosity goes beyond just asking, what do you do for work?
That is small talk, and small talk is the death of attraction. You want to hunt for the emotional hooks. If they say they're an accountant, don't ask about spreadsheets. Ask them, what is the craziest thing you have ever seen in someone's finances? Or did you always want to do that? Or was there a moment you realized this was your path? You are digging for the passion, the struggle, the human element. This is what we call deep listening. It's about hearing the emotional subtext. If someone mentions their job with a heavy sigh, you don't ignore that sigh. You say, that sounded heavy. Tough week? You are validating their emotional reality. That is rare. That is magnetic. Most people are too busy projecting their own movie onto the screen to notice the movie the other person is playing. When you watch their movie with them, you create an instant, profound bond. Now, we have to talk about the killer of all attraction, the one thing that will ruin you faster than bad breath or a cheap suit: neediness. Neediness is a repulsion field. It screams, I am empty, please fill me up. It places a burden on the other person to regulate your emotions and validate your existence. And humans, especially high-value humans, can smell this from a mile away. The antidote to neediness is a psychological concept called differentiation. This is your ability to remain a distinct, separate individual while being in connection with others. It is the ability to say no, to disagree, and to have your own values, even when you really like the person you are talking to. Many people fall into the trap of the nice guy or nice girl syndrome. They think that to be attractive, they must be agreeable. They become social chameleons, morphing their opinions to match whoever they are talking to. Oh, you love hiking? I love hiking too. You hate that movie? Yeah, I was total trash. This is not attractive. It is boring. It signals that you have no core, no spine, and no self-respect. If you agree with everything someone says, you are not a person, you are a mirror. And while mirrors are useful, nobody falls in love with a mirror. They fall in love with a person who has edges, texture, and conviction.
Differentiation means you are willing to walk away. This is the ultimate power move in any negotiation, and social interaction is a negotiation of attention and energy. If you are not willing to walk away, if you feel like you need this interaction to go well, you have already lost. You are operating from scarcity. The most attractive mindset is one of abundance. There are 1 billion people on this planet. If you and I don't vibe, that is totally fine. I will find someone else, and you will find someone else. When you truly believe that, you become dangerous. You become free. You can crack a joke that might be a little risky. You can tease them playfully.
You can disagree with their political take without getting angry or apologetic. This signals status. It signals that your self-worth is internal, not external. You are not begging for scraps of validation. You are bringing a feast of your own personality to the table. This willingness to walk away brings us to the concept of shit tests. Now, this term gets thrown around a lot in the pickup artist community, often in a toxic way, but let's look at the real psychology behind it. A shit test is essentially a calibration check. It is when someone, usually someone high status or very attractive, throws a verbal jab, a challenge, or a slightly rude comment your way to see how you handle it. They are shaking the tree to see if the nuts fall. They want to know, is this person solid, or are they a fragile ego that is going to shatter at the first sign of pressure? Most people fail these tests because they get defensive. If someone says, "Nice shirt, did your mom pick it out for you?" the insecure person gets offended. They say, "No, actually it's a designer brand and I have style." Boom, you failed. You are explaining yourself. You are seeking approval. You have handed them your frame and asked them not to break it. The socially intelligent sniper understands that this is a game. The correct response is never defensiveness. It is self-amusement. You need to treat the comment like a beach ball that you can just bat away. You agree and amplify.
Yeah, she actually laid out 3 outfits for me this morning. I chose the blue one because I wanted to match your eyes. You own it. You don't care. This is where the power of silence comes in. Silence is one of the most underutilized weapons in your arsenal. In a moment of awkwardness or conflict, the average person rushes to fill the void with words. They babble, they apologize, they nervously laugh. The master owns the silence. If you fumble a line, or if you say something that doesn't land, or if someone challenges you, try doing absolutely nothing for 3 seconds. Just look at them with a calm, amused smile. That silence creates a vacuum. It forces the other person to step in and fill it, often revealing their own insecurity. Or it signals that you are so comfortable in your own skin that a momentary lapse in conversation doesn't rattle you. Think about the most charismatic movie characters, the James Bonds, the Tony Starks. They don't talk fast, they don't rush, they pause. They let the weight of their words sink in. They use silence to create anticipation. This is what we call strategic silence. It demonstrates executive control. It shows that your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for emotional regulation, is online and in charge. When you are frantic, you are operating from your amygdala, your fear center.
Slowing down, pausing, and breathing deeply signals to everyone else's subconscious that you are the safest, most stable person in the room. We also need to talk about the physical manifestation of this detachment. You cannot be mentally detached if your body is screaming anxiety. You need to perform a system check on your tension levels. Are your shoulders up by your ears? Drop them. Is your jaw clenched? Relax it. Are you holding your breath? Breathe into your belly. This is grounded presence. Your body leads your mind. If you force your body into a state of relaxation, open chest, slow movements, steady gaze, your brain will interpret these signals and lower your cortisol levels. You are biohacking your own confidence. Let's circle back to the social sniper reading the room, because there is another layer to this: navigating group dynamics. You need to understand the invisible social currents. Every group has unspoken rules and hidden alliances. Maybe the guy in the corner is the ex-boyfriend of the girl by the drinks. Maybe the loud guy is actually insecure and the group is just tolerating him.
If you go in and start high-fiving the loud guy, you might alienate the rest of the group who finds him annoying. You have to watch the reactions to the reactions. This is where cognitive empathy comes into play. It's the ability to predict how others are thinking and feeling without necessarily getting swept up in it yourself. It's a strategic tool.
If you see someone looking bored, that is an opportunity. You can be their savior from boredom. If you see someone looking overwhelmed, you can offer them a low-pressure interaction. You are constantly adjusting your approach based on the feedback you are getting. You are not a robot running a script. You are a jazz musician improvising with the band. But what happens when you make a mistake? Because you will. You will say the wrong thing. You will misread a cue. You will tell a joke that lands with a dull thud. This is the moment of truth. The amateur crumbles. They blush, they stammer, they try to backtrack. The master uses social jujitsu. They use the awkwardness as fuel. If you tell a bad joke, call it out. Wow, that sounded way funnier in my head. I'm gonna give that a solid 2 out of 10. Let's pretend that never happened. By acknowledging the failure with humor, you disarm it. You show that you are not perfect, which makes you relatable. But you also show that you are not devastated by imperfection, which makes you strong. This is resilience. This is anti-fragility. The concept of self-amusement is your ultimate shield against awkwardness. If you are genuinely having a good time, if you are amusing yourself, it doesn't matter if the other person doesn't laugh. You are not dependent on their reaction for your state. You are the party. You bring the weather. If they want to stand in the rain, that's on them.
If they want to join you in the sun, they are welcome. This energy is infectious. People want to be around people who are having fun. It is that simple. If you are standing there scanning the room with a look of desperate searching, you look like a burden. If you are standing there smiling at a private joke, observing the room with a relaxed gaze, you look like a mystery. Let's get tactical with the look. Eye contact is a major part of this sniper skill set. But it's not just about staring people down, that's creepy. It's about the quality of the gaze. You want a soft focus, not a laser beam. A laser beam feels predatory. A soft focus feels inviting. When you are listening, give them about 80% eye contact. When you are speaking, you can break contact to look away while you think. This actually draws them in as they wait for your eyes to return. It creates a push-pull dynamic. And when you do lock eyes, hold it for just a fraction of a second longer than feels comfortable. That microsecond of extra intensity creates a spark. It releases oxytocin. It signals intimacy and confidence. Also consider your positioning. A sniper doesn't stand in the middle of the crossfire. In a social setting, don't stand in the bottleneck where people are trying to squeeze past to get to the bathroom or the bar. That makes you an obstacle. Find a spot where you have a clear view of the room, but your back is protected, maybe against a wall or a bar counter. This is primal. It makes you feel secure because no one can sneak up on you, which allows your nervous system to relax. When you are relaxed, you are magnetic. Now, let's combine generous curiosity with the hierarchy scan. You have identified the most influential person. Do you rush them? No, that's fan behavior. You engage the people around them. You win over the lieutenants. If the group approves of you, the leader will be curious about you. This is social proof. You are working your way in from the outside, proving your value at every step, not by bragging, but by making the people you talk to feel seen and heard. By the time you get to the boss of the social group, you come pre-validated. You are not a stranger. You are the guy that Sarah and Mike were just laughing with. Let's really drill down on differentiation, because it is the hardest pill to swallow. It requires you to be okay with being disliked. If you try to be liked by everyone, you will be loved by no one. You become vanilla ice cream, safe but nobody's favorite. To be irresistible, you must be polarizing. You must stand for something. This means expressing your authentic opinions, even if they run counter to the group consensus. Now, there is a way to do this without being a jerk. It's called respectful disagreement. You say, I see where you're coming from, but I actually see it totally differently. Here is my take. You are not attacking them. You are offering a different perspective. This demonstrates intellectual confidence.
It shows you are an independent thinker. And ironically, even if people disagree with you, they will respect you more than the person who just nods along like a bobblehead. This willingness to create friction is actually a form of flirtation. Flirtation requires tension. If there is no tension, there is no spark. A rubber band can't shoot across the room if you don't pull it back. Differentiation creates that pull. You are saying, I am me, you are you. Let's see what happens when we collide. You are not merging with them, you are dancing with them. And finally, remember the concept of the gift. When you enter a room, most people are there to take. They want to take attention, take approval, take free drinks. The social sniper is there to give. You are giving your presence, you are giving your attention, you are giving good energy, you are giving acceptance. When you operate from a place of giving, you are naturally high status because only someone with abundance can afford to give. You become the source, and everyone wants to be close to the source. So, the next time you walk into a party, a meeting, or a date, pause at the threshold. Take a breath. Turn the camera outward. Scan the hierarchy. Feel the emotional temperature. Find someone and get curiously fascinated by their existence. Stand your ground. Own your silence.
Amuse yourself and be willing to walk away. Do this and you won't just be in the room, you will own the room. You won't have to chase attention. You will be a gravitational well of silent magnetism, and people will naturally, effortlessly fall into your orbit. Let's dissect the generous curiosity hack even further, because it's easy to misunderstand. This isn't an interview. You are not firing off questions like a police interrogator. Where are you from? How many siblings? What's your GPA? That is tedious. That is work. Generous curiosity is about following the thread of energy. If you ask someone where they are from and they say Chicago with a flat tone, do not ask them about the weather in Chicago. They don't care, and neither do you. But if they say Chicago with a grimace, you jump on the grimace. Whoa, that was a face. Tough relationship with the Windy City? Now you are in a real conversation. You are bypassing the facts and going straight for the feelings. This is what makes people feel felt. We live in a world of surface-level digital connection. People are starving for deep, authentic recognition. When you provide that, you become a drug. The source text mentions that listening to understand rather than to respond releases oxytocin in the speaker's brain. You are literally getting them high on their own supply. But you have to be genuine. You cannot fake curiosity. People are lie detectors.
If you're nodding while scanning the room for someone hotter, they will feel it. You have to lock in. For those 2 minutes, that person is the only person in the universe. That intensity is rare. That intensity is seductive. But how do you balance this intense interest with differentiation? How can you be super interested in them, but also willing to walk away? It seems contradictory, right? It's not. It's the difference between interest and investment. You are interested in who they are, but you are not invested in the outcome of the interaction. You are curious about the movie, but you don't care if it has a happy ending. You are just watching it. This detachment allows you to be bold. It allows you to ask the cheeky question. It allows you to tease, because you have nothing to lose. When you have nothing to lose, you are fearless, and fearlessness is the ultimate aphrodisiac. Think about the people you are most drawn to. Are they the ones who are carefully measuring every word, terrified of offending you? Or are they the ones who are unapologetically themselves, who laugh loud, who take up space, who say what they think? We are drawn to freedom because most of us are in chains. Chains of social expectation, chains of insecurity. When we see someone who is free, we want to be near them, hoping some of that freedom rubs off on us. This leads us to the concept of social leadership.
The sniper doesn't just read the room, they eventually guide it. But you guide it gently. You don't blow a whistle and shout orders. You guide it by setting the emotional tone. If the group is stuck in a negativity spiral, complaining about the venue or the weather, you don't argue. You just introduce a new vibe. You tell a funny story. You ask a hypothetical question that shifts the focus. Okay, serious question. Zombie apocalypse breaks out right now. Who in this circle dies first? You have just disrupted the negative pattern and introduced play. You have taken the lead without asking for permission. That is magnetism. And what about the shit test of awkwardness? Let's say you go for a high five and they leave you hanging. That is a moment of pure social pain for most people. They feel the cringe in their bones. The sniper laughs. Maybe you grab your own hand and high-five yourself. Maybe you say, denied, ruthless. You call out the reality. Awkwardness thrives in the shadows. When you shine the light of humor on it, it evaporates. By acknowledging the fumble, you show that your dignity is not tied to a high five. Your dignity is internal. The source material talks heavily about emotional stability. This is the bedrock. You cannot be a sniper if your hands are shaking. You build this stability through exposure. You have to put yourself in social situations that make you uncomfortable.
You have to build up your tolerance for the cringe. Go to a karaoke bar and sing a song you don't know. Strike up a conversation with someone clearly out of your league. Ask for a discount on your coffee just to hear the word no. These are drills. You are inoculating yourself against rejection. The more you realize that rejection doesn't kill you, that the ground doesn't open up and swallow you whole, the less power it has over you. Eventually, you reach a point of anti-fragility. This is where chaos actually makes you better. When the room gets chaotic, when the drama starts, when things go wrong, the average person panics. The master wakes up. They see the chaos as a playground. They are calm in the storm. This calm is hypnotic. In a crisis, everyone looks to the person with the slowest heart rate. Be that person. Regulate your breathing. Deep, slow breaths into the diaphragm. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system. You are literally hacking your biology to stay cool. So let's synthesize this into a walkthrough. You arrive at the venue, you pause, you ground yourself, you breathe, you enter, you scan for the hierarchy, you identify the emotional vibe, you match it, then elevate it. You find a target, you engage with generous curiosity, you listen for the hooks, you differentiate yourself by speaking your truth, you handle any tests with self-amused silence or humor, you are willing to walk away at any moment.
You are giving value, not taking it. This is not a trick. This is not a tactic. This is a way of being. It is about becoming a person of substance, a person of depth, a person who is comfortable in the void. When you stop trying to be attractive and start being interested, when you stop trying to fit in and start being yourself, when you stop needing and start giving, that is when the magic happens. That is when you become the sniper. That is when you become irresistible. Let's dig into the social situational awareness again, specifically regarding the outlier. When scanning a room, you will often see someone on the periphery. Maybe they are on their phone, maybe they are looking at the bookshelf. The amateur ignores them to chase the popular group. The sniper sees potential. Often the most interesting person in the room is the one who hates the room. Or, strategic point, if you engage the outlier and bring them into the fold, you have just created a loyal ally. You have demonstrated leadership. You have built your own tribe within the party. Approach the outlier not with pity, but with conspiracy. Is it just me, or is the music in here aggressively loud? You are creating an us versus the room dynamic. This creates instant camaraderie. You have validated their discomfort. Now you are a team. From there, you can pivot to generous curiosity. What brings you to this madness? This brings us back to layers of communication.
The source text highlights that socially intelligent people listen to three things simultaneously: the verbal content, the emotional subtext, and the relational dynamics. Most people only hear the words. If someone says, "I'm fine," the amateur hears, "they are fine." The sniper hears the clipped tone, sees the crossed arms, and recognizes the dismissal in the eyes. They hear, "I am annoyed and I don't want to talk about it right now." The sniper respects the subtext. They don't push. They might say, "Cool, I'm gonna grab a drink. Let me know if you need a rescue." You give them space. You respect the boundary. Ironically, this respect for their boundary often makes them want to open up to you later because you proved you are socially calibrated. You didn't force it. This calibration is key to destruction of neediness. Neediness forces. Magnetism allows. Neediness is "talk to me." Magnetism is "I am here if you want to talk." It is a subtle energetic shift, but it changes everything. It is the difference between a salesman chasing you down the street and a shopkeeper who smiles and lets you browse. Who do you trust more? Who are you more likely to buy from? You buy from the one who doesn't need the sale. Let's look at the generous curiosity regarding this story. Everyone is the protagonist of their own movie. When you are listening, you are trying to understand their character arc. What is their motivation? What is their conflict?
If you can reflect their own story back to them, so wait, you moved across the country with no job just because you felt like you needed a change? That is bold. You become the best mirror they have ever looked into. You are helping them make sense of their own life. That is incredibly valuable. You are adding value just by understanding them. This creates psychological safety. The source highlights this as a component of presence. When people feel safe with you, when they feel you won't judge them, interrupt them, or use their words against them, they relax.
Here is the 7-day Silent Magnet protocol. We are moving from theory into radical action. This is not about learning. This is about reprogramming your default neural pathways. We are going to gamify your social existence for the next week. The goal is to break the loop of trying and install the operating system of being. Days 1 and 2 are the reset. We call this the biological override. You cannot have a magnetic mind in a frantic body. The source material dictates that 93% of your attractiveness is nonverbal, rooted in your nervous system. Most of you are walking around in a state of chronic low-level fight or flight. You are breathing shallowly into your chest, your shoulders are rolled forward protecting your heart, and your eyes are darting. This signals threat or insecurity to every mirror neuron in the room. For 48 hours, your only job is to hijack your own biology. The mechanic for days 1 and 2 is the hourly audit. Set a silent alarm on your phone to vibrate every single hour. When that alarm hits, you perform a 2-step physiological correction. Step 1 is the breath reset. You are going to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. That is the rest and digest mode that signals safety to others. You will take 5 conscious diaphragmatic breaths, in through the nose for 4 seconds, hold for 2, out through the mouth for 6. We are hacking your vagus nerve here.
When you breathe slowly, you are chemically telling your brain that you are safe. When you feel safe, you project safety. And as we know from the psychology of presence, psychological safety is the bedrock of attraction. Step 2 of the hourly audit is the posture correction. This is based on embodied cognition. The research from Harvard Business School is clear. Your body doesn't just reflect your mind, your body dictates your mind. If you sit in a collapsed position, your cortisol levels, the stress hormone, spike, and your testosterone drops. You literally make yourself less confident chemically. So when that alarm buzzes, you don't just sit up straight, you align your spine as if a string is pulling the crown of your head to the ceiling. You drop your shoulders away from your ears. You open your chest. You hold this for 2 minutes. This isn't about looking like a soldier. It's about taking up space. It is about grounded presence. By the end of day 2, you will feel a shift. You won't be frantic. You will be heavy, stable, and rooted. That is the foundation. Now we move to days 3 and 4. This is the mute button. This is where it gets painful for your ego. The biggest killer of silent magnetism is the desperate need to prove you are smart, funny, or relevant. We fill silence because silence feels like a void, and that void triggers our anxiety. We project a lack of confidence by over-talking. For the next 2 days, you are going to play a game called the 50% cut. The rules are strict. You must cut your word count by exactly half. If you usually tell a 5-minute story, you tell it in 2. If you usually explain your reasoning with 3 examples, you use 1. You are stripping away the fluff. You are deleting the adjectives. You are stopping the overselling. This forces you into what the philosophy calls strategic silence. You are going to realize how much you babble to appease others. When you stop feeding the noise, you create a curiosity gap. People start wondering what you are thinking. You become a mystery rather than an open book. During this phase, you are going to replace statements with questions. This is the deep listening protocol. Most people listen to respond. They are just waiting for their turn to speak. You are going to listen to understand. When you feel the urge to jump in with, "Oh yeah, that happened to me too," you are going to bite your tongue. You are going to pause for a full 3 seconds, count them in your head, and then ask a follow-up question. What was that like for you? Or how did that change your perspective? This triggers a massive release of oxytocin in the other person's brain. They feel heard, they feel validated, and because you are the source of that feeling, they attribute that pleasure to your presence. You become addictive by doing absolutely nothing but holding space.
You are leveraging the power of silence to project status. High status individuals do not rush to fill the air. They are comfortable in the pause. By the end of day 4, you will notice people leaning in. They will physically move closer to you because you aren't blasting them with energy. You are pulling them in like a vacuum. Days 5 and 6 are the eye contact challenge. This is high voltage stuff. We are taking the presence you built in the reset and the silence you mastered in the mute phase, and we are channeling it through the eyes. The eyes are the primary tool for nonverbal signaling, but most people have weak, skittish eye contact. They look away the moment tension builds. Breaking eye contact first is a subconscious submission signal. It says, I cannot handle the intensity of this moment. For 2 days, your mission is to hold the gaze. But there is a critical nuance here. This is not a stare down. This is not aggression. If you stare with a hard, unblinking gaze, you trigger the threat response in the primitive brain. You will look like a predator. We want warm gaze. You must soften the muscles around your eyes. You must engage a slight, almost imperceptible smile. This signals, I see you and I accept you. The rule for days 5 and 6 is simple. In every interaction, whether it is with a barista, a boss, or a date, you do not break eye contact until they do. You let them look away first.
When they break the gaze, do not dart your eyes away immediately. Linger for a split second longer, then slowly move your focus. This subtle behavior communicates immense power. It signals that you are totally comfortable with intimacy and tension. It shows you have nothing to hide. You will feel a spike of adrenaline the first few times you do this. Your brain will scream, look away, this is awkward. You must ride that wave. That discomfort is your nervous system recalibrating to a higher level of social dominance and emotional stability. You are training yourself to tolerate the heat of connection. You are practicing emotional regulation in real time. By the end of day 6, you will walk into rooms and feel like you own the emotional temperature of that space. Finally, we arrive at day 7, the social risk. This is the final exam. We are integrating everything, the breathing, the posture, the silence, the eye contact, into a single high-stakes environment. You are going to go somewhere where there are people, a bar, a networking event, a coffee shop, a park, and you are going to practice agenda-free presence. Most social interaction is transactional. We want something. We want a phone number, we want a business deal, we want validation, we want to be liked. This wanting creates a subtle energy of neediness, and as we know, neediness is the anti-magnet. It repels. For day 7, your goal is to interact with zero attachment to the outcome.
You are not there to get anything. You are there to give presence. You will enter a conversation with a stranger. You will use your grounded posture. You will use your deep breathing to stay calm. You will ask questions and cut your word count. You will hold the gaze. But here is the twist. You must actively embrace the possibility of rejection. You must accept that the interaction might go nowhere. You must be willing to sit in the awkwardness without trying to fix it. This is stress inoculation. By exposing yourself to the potential of social failure and realizing you survive it, you build unshakable inner confidence. True confidence comes from competence, not affirmations. You need to prove to yourself that you can stand in a social storm and remain centered. When you talk to someone with zero agenda, you become terrifyingly attractive. You are an anomaly in their matrix. Everyone else wants something from them. You are just there, complete and whole. You are radiating generous curiosity. You might ask, what do I say? It doesn't matter. Remember Mehrabian's rule, only 7% is the words. You could ask for the time, or compliment their shoes, or ask what they are drinking. If your energy is grounded, if your silence is comfortable, if your eyes are warm, they will feel the pull. Complete this 7-day protocol, and you won't just understand silent magnetism, you will have lived it. You will have rewired your baseline biological and social responses. You will stop doing attraction and start being the magnet. Let's bring this all home. We have spent this entire deep dive deconstructing the mechanics of silence, the neuroscience of presence, and the sociology of influence. But all of that data, the Harvard studies, the Mehrabian rule, the feedback loops,
It all leads to one singular, non-negotiable shift in your reality. We are talking about the transition from the anxious dancing monkey to the grounded magnetic center. And I need you to really get this, because this is where most people fumble the bag. They learn the tactics, they learn the eye contact ratios and the open body language, but they never change the operating system running the hardware. The dancing monkey is the default state for 99% of the population. It's that low-level hum of anxiety that kicks in the second you walk into a social setting. It's the voice in the back of your head asking, do they like me? Am I being interesting enough? What should I say next to keep the vibe alive? That is the energy of a performer. And as we discussed back in chapter 10 regarding neediness, performing is repelling. When you perform, you are communicating that your value is conditional, that you only matter as long as you are entertaining. You are broadcasting a lack of internal resources.
You are telling the room, please validate me, because I cannot validate myself. And the human brain, which is wired to detect social positioning within milliseconds, picks up on that scent of desperation. It triggers a subtle avoidance response in others. It creates that incongruence we talked about, where your words might be confident, but your micro-expressions and energy are screaming for approval. Now, contrast that with the magnetic center. This is the identity shift. This is the goal. The magnetic center doesn't enter a room to get anything. They enter to share an experience. This person has mastered what we covered in chapter 2 regarding energy management. They have a regulated nervous system. Their breathing is diaphragmatic and slow, which signals to their own brain and via mirror neurons to everyone else's brain that there is no threat, there is no scarcity, there is no rush. This is the person who is comfortable with the strategic silence we broke down in chapter 3. They don't feel the need to fill the void because they aren't afraid of the void. They understand that silence is the canvas upon which connection is painted. Imagine walking into a high-stakes room, maybe a VIP event, a critical business meeting, or a date with someone you perceive as out of your league. The old you would be scanning for reactions, your cortisol spiking, your focus scattered on how am I being perceived. But the new you,
the version of you that has integrated these 15 chapters, you walk in with what we call grounded presence. You feel the floor beneath your feet, physically centering yourself as per the martial arts concepts in chapter 6. You are aware of the tension in your shoulders and you consciously release it. You are running a completely different mental script. Instead of, I hope they like me, the script is, I wonder who these people are. You have shifted from self-conscious to curious. This is the generous curiosity from chapter 8 in action. You aren't trying to impress them with your accolades. You are genuinely fascinated by their human experience. And because you are listening to understand rather than responding to impress, you trigger that oxytocin release in their brain. You become a source of psychological safety. In a world full of people screaming to be heard, you become the rarest commodity of all, someone who actually hears. That is not a tactic, that is an identity. That is the difference between doing attractiveness and being attractive. Let's look at the future of your social interactions if you commit to this path. Picture this. You are standing in a group. There is a lull in the conversation. The dancing monkey would panic and blurt out a joke or an awkward question just to kill the silence. But you just exist in that moment. You maintain comfortable, soft eye contact. You are relaxed. You are okay with the uncertainty, as we discussed in chapter 4 regarding emotional stability. And watch what happens. Because you aren't panicking, the people around you stop panicking. They look to you as the emotional anchor of the group. You effectively become the leader of the dynamic simply by having the strongest reality frame. The person with the most regulated nervous system always dictates the emotional tone of the room. That is the silent magnetism we are chasing. It is effortless because it isn't something you are doing. It is the residue of who you have become. This leads us to the final uncomfortable truth that ties this entire philosophy together, tapping into chapter 15 regarding integration. Attractiveness is not a mask, it is a side effect. You cannot hack your way to genuine magnetism with pickup lines or rehearsed body language gestures if the internal engine is broken. Remember the data, 93% of communication is nonverbal. You cannot fake 93% of your output. The microsignals, the pupil dilation, the breathing patterns, the vocal resonance, they will always betray you if you are incongruent.
So the game isn't how do I make them like me? The game is how do I develop myself into a person who is naturally likable? It is about the continuous growth we talked about in Chapter 12. It's about building that unshakable confidence through competence, not affirmations.
When you know you can handle rejection, when you know you have value, when you have a life that excites you outside of this specific social interaction, you naturally give off the signal of high value. You become the prize. Becoming the prize means you stop chasing. Physics tells us that when you chase something, it moves away from you. When you chase approval, you repel it. When you chase status, you look low status. But when you stop, when you become a solid, immovable object of authentic self-expression, gravity takes over. People start gravitating toward you. They send the texts, they ask for your opinion, they seek your company. Not because you manipulated them, but because you make them feel more alive. You make them feel seen. You transmit that positive emotional contagion we covered in Chapter 14. You are a source of energy in a world of energy vampires. This is the reality shift. It's waking up and realizing that you don't need to perform anymore. You just need to be. But being isn't passive, it's active. It is the active practice of awareness, of emotional regulation, of deep listening, and of social courage. It is deciding that you are going to be the most grounded person in the room, not the loudest. This is a mastery that takes time. We have covered a massive amount of ground, from the primitive brain functions to the nuances of social leadership. You are not going to master this overnight.
You are going to slip back into dancing monkey mode. You are going to get anxious. That is part of the process. The goal is to catch yourself. Use that metacognition from Chapter 4. Observe the anxiety, breathe through it, and return to your center. Return to the silence. If you are ready to stop performing and start attracting, if you are done with the superficial hacks and you are ready to play the invisible game at the highest level, I need to know you are serious. This isn't for the tourists, this is for the practitioners. So here is your mission. I want you to go down to the comments right now and type the word magnet. Just one word, magnet. This is your commitment to the shift. It's a signal to yourself and to this community that you are done chasing and you are ready to become the gravitational center of your own life. And listen, we have only scratched the surface of the physical aspect. Next week, we are doing a complete granular breakdown on the physiology of power. We're talking specifically about how to hack your testosterone and cortisol levels through posture, based on that Harvard Business School research we touched on. You do not want to miss the practical drills I have for that. So make sure you are subscribed, make sure notifications are on, and keep doing the work in the dark so you can shine in the light. Comment magnet. I'll see you in the next one.